Coming up now on Animal Outtakes, the longest running study of a wild dolphin population in the world.
The Sarasota Dolphins are arguably the best known community of dolphins anywhere in the world. And we serve as a reference population that can be used for comparisons broadly.
We're learning about the Sarasota Dolphin Research Program, finding out how more than 50 years of work is helping dolphins across the globe. Plus, we get up close to the largest herd of zebra in the United States. And some stern words from a rehabilitation expert.
This is getting to the point everyone does matter because the numbers are not adding up anymore for the positive.
We visit an Odessa sanctuary where several Sandhill cranes are being nursed back to health. This and much more straight ahead on Animal Outtakes. The Sarasota Dolphin Research Program started back in 1970. That's when the first bottlenose dolphins were tagged in Sarasota Bay. And since then, the program of the Chicago Zoological Society has grown.
The Sarasota Dolphin Research Program operates the world's longest running study of a wild dolphin population. We began studying dolphins in Sarasota Bay, Florida back in 1970, and we're still studying many of the same animals or their descendants today. The program started in 1970 at Mote Marine Laboratory when it was at the south end of Siesta Key. A fellow named Blair Irvine came here from California where he'd been working as a civilian with the Navy, and he headed up that project. He needed an assistant. I was in high school at Riverview at that point. I was able to get an interview with him, and he took me on as an intern for the summer and then into a paid part-time position from that point forward. We had the opportunity on our spare time to go out and tag dolphins that were being released by a local dolphin collector. And what we began to learn was that the dolphins stayed home. And so we began to see the same dolphins over and over again in Sarasota Bay and in waters between Tampa Bay and Charlotte Harbor. We've been able to determine that the dolphins in Sarasota Bay live in what we refer to as a community. It's not a population necessarily because there's reproductive exchange with similar communities to the north, to the south, and offshore. But they're in a community where most of their activities take place, and that goes from the southern edge of Tampa Bay southward to about Venice Inlet and to within about half a mile to a mile of shore. In that community, there are about 170 individuals, and we've been studying 6 generations of those individuals since 1970. At any given time, we can have as many as 5 generations represented, or at least a span of 5 generations within a specific lineage represented within this community. We have about a dozen people working with us on a regular basis. About 10 of those I think are full-time, the others are part-time. And then we typically have anywhere from 8 to 10 graduate students that are working with us, either working here in Sarasota to conduct their own projects, or using data or samples or guidance that we can provide. We've got 1 million photographs in our archives, and they're not all the exciting dolphin leaps. The vast majority are just dorsal fins, taken from the right angle, taken from the right distance, showing the nicks and notches in a way that makes them data. And now we can tell about 95% of the animals in Sarasota Bay from their dorsal fins. Some of the markings are very subtle, but my staff is really good at picking up on that. And it takes time for the dolphins to acquire a mark. Usually when they're born, they may have a distinctive shape to their fin, but they don't get the nicks and notches in their fins until some time has passed. And other dolphins bite them, sharks bite them, line gets wrapped around them, boats strike them. They acquire those markings. The primary reason for us doing this work is to benefit the animals. We're fascinated by them. Certainly we have selfish curiosity, but we want that to translate into something that can benefit the animals themselves. So we do work that can be translated into something that management can use to protect the animals. They can learn about population structure, know what kinds of units they need to be protecting, and what those particular units might be exposed to that they need to try to mitigate. We want to understand the biology, behavior, and health of these animals so that they can serve as a reference population. For example, when the Deepwater Horizon oil spill happened, it impacted other parts of the Gulf of Mexico, especially Barataria Bay, Louisiana. And so there was a need for investigating the impacts of the oil and the dispersants on those animals. One way to do that, since they didn't have any baseline information on the health of the dolphins in Louisiana, was to do a comparative study. And so we were the comparison since the oil didn't get here. The differences that they found in the health of the dolphins up in Barataria Bay compared to the dolphins here in Sarasota Bay pointed to the impacts of the oil, and was one of the things that probably helped to lead to the settlement by BP at an earlier stage than it might have otherwise. In Sarasota Bay, the only dolphins we'll find on a regular basis are the common bottlenose dolphin, Tursiops truncatus. We go through ups and downs in terms of numbers of dolphins in the bay. When there's a severe red tide, we lose dolphins, in some cases due to the toxin released by the red tide organisms. In other cases, they're lagged ecological effects. The red tide takes out the prey fish that the dolphins need. In some cases, we've been able to document more than 75% of the dolphin prey fish is gone during a harmful algal bloom from red tide. And so the dolphins decline in condition. They find alternative food sources, and in some cases they have to vie with anglers for the few remaining fish. And so there have been occasions where we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of dolphins dying and being seriously injured from recreational fishing gear during or following one of these red tide events. In 2006, we lost 2% of our local residents to ingesting fishing gear. And so there's a variety of things that happened. 2018, 2019, there was another severe red tide. It went away more quickly, but it was really powerful when it went through. A number of our dolphins died from the toxin, but then we had a record number of shark bites on dolphins in Sarasota Bay after that. And what we learned through our own fish monitoring and through discussions with colleagues is that there had been a large mortality of stingrays associated with that red tide event. So when the sharks came back, their primary prey item, the stingrays, weren't there. And so we believe that they may have been using the dolphins as an alternative food source. Last year, we were able to start expanding our research offshore over the West Florida shelf. And so we were able to go out and do health assessments and put satellite-linked transmitters on bottlenose dolphins, rough-toothed dolphin, and spotted dolphins over the West Florida shelf, anywhere from 20 to 50 miles offshore. It just so happened that we were out there doing some of this work the week before Ian came through. And so we had 4 satellite-linked tags operating at that time. Those dolphins were located in separate groups, but they were located just north of Charlotte Harbor in deep water offshore. And so the Hurricane Ian came through to the south of them over Captiva and Bukelia and that area. And the dolphins were then seen to move to the southwest very rapidly. So the way the hurricane spins, it seems as if the dolphins were riding the very large waves that were being created by Ian, which makes a lot more sense than trying to swim into them when they have to surface to breathe. There were reports that one of the buoys offshore, that there were waves as high as 52 feet out there. And these animals, they had no choice. They were there, they had to deal with it, and they did. And then life went back to normal after Ian went away. The Mote Marine Laboratory Stranding Investigations Program recovers carcasses of dolphins that die in the area, and about 1/3 of our dolphins that disappear are recovered as carcasses, so they get a sense of what's killing them. And of all the causes of death that they've been able to identify, the number one is fishing gearing involvement. A lot of the fishing line that's out there today is designed to be invisible in the water and to be very strong. And some of it is braided monofilament or braided nylon. And this, when you look at it under a microscope, looks just like little saw teeth. Dolphin skin is very soft. Fishing line that gets wrapped around dolphin skin or pulling on dolphin skin will cut through it. And it can take the fins off the animals, it can embed in their tissues, it can keep them from being able to eat. One of the things we're finding now with our colleagues at the College of Charleston is that these dolphins are showing evidence of exposure to microplastics and the chemicals that go into making plastics, the plasticizers. Every one of the dolphins that we've sampled in recent years have microplastics in them. And so you have to begin to wonder, They're getting that presumably from the fish that they're eating. We're eating those fish too. What do we have in the way of microplastics in us? So we see the highest concentrations of some of these chemicals and materials in dolphins that spend a lot of their time where there's not that much outflow into the Gulf of Mexico. For example, in and around the mouth of Felipe Creek into Point South. So these dolphins are the unwilling recipients of a lot of stuff that we've put out there over the decades. We share this ecosystem. They are sentinels of what's going to be happening to us through ecosystem effects. They breathe the same air, they catch and eat the same fish, they swim through the same waters, and so what happens to them is likely to have an impact on us, and the more we can do to make life good for them, the better off we're going to be as well. And so what we're trying to do is use this to help people appreciate them more so they'll care more and do the right thing when it comes to making decisions when they're voting about environmental bills, or when they're trying to decide what they're going to be doing out on the water and how to be good stewards of their environment. If we can help people to recognize them as individuals and relate to them as individuals living in their backyard and as their neighbors, then hopefully we can engender a more caring population out there and get the word out to the visitors as well to make a better life for everybody.
For much more about the work of the Sarasota Dolphin Research Program, you can go online at sarasotadolphin.org. Coming up next on Animal Outtakes, how this threatened species keeps taking a hit. We visit an Odessa rehab facility that's working overtime to treat and release injured sandhill cranes. That's next.
Good morning, Mr. Benson. Your breakfast is served.
Time for another day in doggy paradise. I sure am one lucky pup.
Mr. Benson, would you like to go out for your morning stroll? The weather is quite lovely today.
That sounds wonderful. Don't mind if I do. After all that exercise, I think I'd like to lounge by the pool and maybe dip my paws in.
As you wish, sir. Right this way.
Ah, what a perfect day. I couldn't imagine being anywhere else but Dante's Den while Mom and Dad are away.
At Dante's Den, we pride ourselves in providing the best experience for your beloved pup. Whether it be a day, a month, or a year, Dante's Den should always be at the top of your list for boarding. With an expansive campus, your dog will enjoy daily walks, pool time, and an endless supply of love. Even better, it's all under 24/7 supervision from our wonderful staff. If you're anything like us, your dog's safety and happiness come first. To learn more about Dante's Den, visit dantesden.org.
Every dolphin at Clearwater Marine Aquarium has an amazing tale. They're all rescues who have overcome challenges to survive and thrive. You'll be inspired by every animal story and unforgettable moments with them, including 2-year-old Apollo, our newest rescued dolphin. There's something inspirational for every kid, and kid at heart. Your visit directly supports the animal care and rescue efforts at Clearwater Marine Aquarium, celebrating 50 years of amazing tales.
Did you know Mode is caring for more than 2,000 genotypes of corals? And that represents the single largest collection of coral genetic diversity outside of Mother Nature herself? The more you know about everything Mote's doing to help our oceans, the more you'll understand why Mote matters.
For 40 years, I'd been burying my emotions and all of the trauma.
I was grasping desperately for independence and hope. I found it with a tail and a cold nose.
I call him my battle buddy, because every time we're out in the public, he has my back.
Every time those demons start talking, he knows, and he's right there at my side. Mustang truly did save my life.
If you've ever looked up in the sky and thought you were back in prehistoric times, you may have been looking at a sandhill crane. The heron-like bird can reach a height of almost 4 feet tall with a wingspan that's even longer. They're protected in Florida by the U.S. Migratory Bird Treaty Act. But still, the state has had to deem these birds a threatened species. On a recent visit to the Owl's Nest Sanctuary in Odessa, we found out what the biggest threat to these birds may be.
So I'm Chris Porter. I'm the director of Owl's Nest Sanctuary for Wildlife, rehab for the state of Florida. And we have Sandhill crane babies. They're in there right now. We have them normally walking out. This is about 1.5 acres that's fenced in. And they are at the point that they're out, but right now we have Boy Scouts that are going in and out of gates, so we're gonna leave them locked up so we don't lose them. Sandhill cranes, there's a lot to say in a short amount of time. They literally, well, they are a threatened species now for the state of Florida as of last year. About 4 years ago, somebody on my team went forward to the head biologist and was worried about Wesley Chapel area, and that led into us documenting births, hits, things like that. And now 4 years later, it's a full-fledged 12-county. We document birds with permanent injuries. That means a broken wing or an amputation, that they can stay out and they've adapted. We know them all by picture and address. There's 87 of them, believe it or not. You know, it's hard to say if they're all still alive, but we hear about a good 50% of them constantly. Babies this year, it has been a really bad year again. I don't even know what to say. People will not slow down. They just wipe right into them. The original crane, one got sideswiped by a car. I had a fracture in his tibia tarsus that I had to heal. He came from out past Davenport, actually, in Mineola. So he couldn't go back. It was too much of a time span between the fixing. And then the other one got dropped by a hawk, really small. So, of course, we had no idea at all where he came from. We actually have one more smaller up in that barn. Soon we'll merge them together. And so everybody's got a story. And we have been really successful this year about, some of them have been hurt and they go into what's called myopathy, which that stress can release lactic acid, so their muscles shut down. So if they're lucky enough and nothing's broken, sometimes it is just a stress factor keeping them down. We've gotten 4 back to parents because of medication and dealing with it and getting them, my team running them back to their parents and finding them. This is getting to the point everyone does matter because the numbers are not adding up anymore for the positive. We hope that the head biologist for FWC can use our data to do something I think along the same lines as what the state does for gopher tortoises or Florida panthers is needed. They have to be so regulated that people know that it's a problem if you hurt one. And that's what is saving the gopher tortoise, and that is what saved the Florida panther. If they don't do it soon, I don't see this species in Florida within 5 years. I really don't. The numbers are so in the red. Even today, by the time you leave here, we have a colt that just got hit by a car that's coming in. So it's not usually good news because the cars are even with, unfortunately, their spine and pelvis. So that's usually what goes. It's always the legs, spine, pelvis. And this is a very depressing thing for my staff. And I have to be the upbeat person, but you have to understand, we get crane calls probably 5 or 6 a day. So we have to sit there and determine, can it stay out? Is it able? They run them to the vets. It's not good news. The colts this year. So this is a big, you know, when you think of rehab, oh, that feeling of getting it back to the wild, we don't have that feeling because it's so, the public is not helping us. There's nobody understanding what's gonna happen. They love these birds. Everybody loves them. They need to start making adjustments to how they're driving or their dog attacking, just running up off a leash and attacking the colts. That's not okay. It shouldn't be okay, and they should, you know, in my opinion, get fined or something that's gonna make it stand out. Yeah, not a lot of states have birds this size. We're very fortunate. This subspecies, again, is not like the ones out west that people, they actually do have a hunting season in the Midwest for them. That's not this subspecies. This is different. These guys stay in our state of Florida. So people have to care about them, just like they go to bat for the manatees and the Florida panthers. It's time to go to bat for a bird. Bald eagles can't, you know, everybody goes crazy over bald eagles, but there's other birds that need the public awareness.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. The patterns on a zebra are one of a kind, unique like a human fingerprint. On a recent trip to Lion Country Safari, we find ourselves in the middle of the largest zebra herd on record in the U.S. A zebra is a mammal that has a lifespan of about 25 years in the wild. It's an herbivore, which means they eat plants and grass. Planet Earth is home to 3 species of zebra, and all are native to Africa. The plain zebra is the most common, and that's what you'll see here at Lion Country Safari. They are well known for their coloring. They have a beautiful black and white striped coat. Or is it brown? One of the more interesting facts, no 2 zebras look the same. Each individual's stripes are unique, sort of like a snowflake. We're told no one is for sure about why zebras have these stripes. Some say it could be to confuse predators or fend off pesky mosquitoes. Zebras are always on the move and are social animals that live in herds. They have excellent eyesight and one of the few mammals that can see in color. A black and white animal that can see in color? But don't mistake their beauty for weakness. They can run up to 40 miles per hour, sleep standing up, and can go without water for up to 5 days. And zebras are powerful. They're able to kick with nearly 3,000 pounds of force, which is strong enough to kill large animals with just a single blow. So it is advised to admire all the beauty from a safe distance.
They also have a social system that's based on conflict and hierarchy. They have dominant stallions, they also have higher-ranking females, and they're sort of clique of allies as well. So there's also a lot of drama that goes on in zebra social structures as well. They're all very unique from each other. There's been a long-held sort of hypothesis that the stripes are meant to create sort of a dazzle effect for predators that are chasing them. It's harder to tell one zebra from the rest of the herd. Still a possibility, but other hypotheses have sort of come about, and that zebras may have that stripe pattern to create a cooling effect across their skin, which that difference between the temperatures of the lighter color and the darker color does create an airflow. And then also too, we see with the zebra, they are less likely to be bitten by different types of insects than if they were to just have like one dark color coat, which is beneficial since their hair is pretty short compared to other species, which of course is great not to get bit by flies and mosquitoes, but also too, those insects can carry diseases which can affect them as well. Now, zebras are facing threats in the wild, whether it's diseases in the wild, poaching, or loss of habitat, or competition for grazing grounds with native livestock or domesticated livestock as well. So they are also facing some threats in the wild.
For more on how you can visit one of these zebras from the comfort and safety of your car, go to lioncountrysafari.com. Stay with us. There's more animal outtakes coming up next.
Good morning, Mr. Benson. Your breakfast is served.
Time for another day in doggy paradise. I sure am one lucky pup.
Mr. Benson, would you like to go out for your morning stroll? The weather is quite lovely today.
That sounds wonderful. Don't mind if I do. After all that exercise, I think I'd like to lounge by the pool and maybe dip my paws in.
As you wish, sir. Right this way.
Ah, what a perfect day. I couldn't imagine being anywhere else but Dante's Den while Mom and Dad are away.
At Dante's Den, we pride ourselves in providing the best experience for your beloved pup. Whether it be a day, a month, or a year, Dante's Den should always be at the top of your list for boarding. With an expansive campus, your dog will enjoy daily walks, pool time, and an endless supply of love. Even better, it's all under 24/7 supervision from our wonderful staff. If you're anything like us, your dog's safety and happiness come first. To learn more about Dante's Den, visit dantesden.org.
Animal Outtakes is produced by Dante's Den Foundation, a nonprofit group dedicated to creating the best life for dogs. If you would like to learn more about Dante's Den, donate, or volunteer, visit our website, dantesden.org. We hope you had fun and learned a thing or two along the way. We'll be back here again next week with even more animals and some wild adventures. Until then, thanks for watching.